Hey guys, what's going on? Watomarmelon back again, and today I'm going to be bringing you another market watch. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, that sort of stuff. And if you really want to support, click the eBay and TCG Player affiliate links in the description below. Just clicking them before you make a purchase ends up helping the channel without any additional cost to you. So, getting things started with Rage of the Abyss, the new set that's come out. I'm not going to get into all the meta relevant stuff. I know the Molcharmy stuff is absolutely insane in price. I can't really speak to that because I don't play the game. I always just come at this from a collector's point of view. Now, among the cards, and unfortunately they don't have thumbnail images for each of the listings, but of the cards right now that are interesting, there's this Red Eyes Quarter Century Secret Rare at 60, and there's also this Heart of the Blue Eyes at 60 as well. These are both, I think, have pretty decent artworks and are pretty interesting cards. However, at 60, when you look at some of the more recent releases of Quarter Century Secret Rare, they just don't seem that appealing at 60 to me personally. It's something where if it came down to maybe 20 or so, I'd start to look at these as interesting collector's cards. It's just the price of a lot of modern collector's product has just come down significantly, or at least a lot of the new stuff that's released is much more accessible, and so there's so much supply that even though there's demand for it, the prices just are very, very low. And obviously these are people don't realize that you can't just look within a single card at the different copies of that specific card to tell you whether the price is going to go up or down. The reality is you have to look at the entire market and what are the close alternatives to that card. There's this concept in economics. If you take in like an economics 101 course, it's called substitutes or close substitutes or substitute goods, basically. And then there are other, different types of goods like inferior goods, complementary goods, things like that. But substitutes are very important because every card is a substitute for another card to a certain extent. The reality is people have a limited amount of money to spend on cardboard, and if you can get a cool collector's item for $1 or $20 and they have the same intrinsic value to you, you're going to go with the $1 card every single time. And that's what's happening, in my opinion, is that it's just hard for a lot of these new releases to hold value because some of the other ones, like I'll look at the tins later, it's very hard to justify spending money on anything besides stuff from the tins. There's a channeler here, which is cool. There's some Mimigul stuff. Pride and Soul is interesting as well, but I just don't see any of this maintaining some sort of price at its or maintaining these prices at current demand levels. I imagine as time goes on, a lot of these will fall out, and then I think there's one more at the back. Yeah, Primite Drill Beam. Not really interested in that. Next, we'll look at the tins. The tins are also interesting. Blue Eyes is held quite strong, but a lot of the other stuff has fallen out. I said it before that for me, I just think that the cards are so interesting and so beautiful in this Quarter Century Secret Rare printing that it doesn't matter that there's basically infinite supply of this stuff. I just like it, and I'm willing to spend money on this sort of stuff. I've picked up a number of these. I have a Blue Eyes, I have a Dark Magician Girl, I have one of the pieces. I need to finish the remaining pieces. I need a Light and Darkness Dragon. I need a Relinquished Anima. I need a Wing. Actually, no, I got a Wing Karibo, got a Scapegoat, got a Yubel, got multiple Tomb Kingdoms. So there's, I'm slowly completing this. I don't want to buy on TCG Player just so I can avoid fees. The point being that a lot of this stuff is really, really cool. And even though there's a huge supply of it, I think that over time people are going to go back and want to pick up cards from this set. When I see Dark Magician Girl for a $14 or under a $14 market price, look at all the other Dark Magician Girls. There were secret rares that, were holding above 20. Not saying that that is necessarily what's going to happen. I just think that despite the fact you might look here and say, oh my God, there are 154 listings of this card, there's an infinite supply. People are not going to be able to consume all that was printed. I think that there's going to be a constant supply or a constant demand over time. People are eventually going to stop opening up these tins at the same rate, and people are going to, over time, want this card, put it in the collection, and it's not going to, come out of the collection to be resold. And so there's just going to be a constant demand for this stuff that's going to eat away at the supply over time. And I made the same prediction about Ghost Rares from these modern Ghost from the Past 2 specifically sets, and we'll get into why I think that's going to be the same case, but I like a lot of these. I think they look really great, and I think that they're going to be super collectible, especially once Bonanza comes out and releases 100 or 200, I forget how many quarter-century secret rares. People are going to be able to fill up entire binders of just quarter-century secret rares that they actually want. And I think that's important, and something that you have to consider is that there's now enough of this stuff out there that people are going to be able to really fill out binder pages with stuff that they want. And so I think this has become the default way to collect modern product. It's through this quarter-century secret rare, and I think collectors have to respect that. I know some people don't want to touch it because there's so much of it, but don't touch it because you want it as an investment vehicle. Touch it because it's actually cool stuff that's really affordable. Another cool quarter-century secret rare, I don't know why this one came to my mind, it's just Rescue Cat. A lot of the stuff from the Rarity Collection 2 has slowly been creeping up. This one is one that, went up a bit and then has come down. You can see the different oscillations in the market price, but you can see that over time, there's been basically a constant supply. It has its own oscillations, but it's still an available card. You can see it's $239 with free shipping for an order above $5, then it quickly becomes $350 or so. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff, and this just adds to the total number of cards in quarter-century secret rare that I think people want to collect. And I think that this will end up in people's binders. It's going to be ending up in people's decks who want to play past formats. There's a lot of stuff like that I really do like. Now getting to Ghost Rares, this is one of the Ghost Rares that I predicted would fall out hard, and it has fallen out pretty significantly over the past year. The reason I predicted it is that I just thought that when you look at this card and you look at other cards from Ghost from the Past 2, basically both sets, even though Ghost from the Past 2 had a higher pull rate, there were more Ghost Rares in that set. So the total number of this specific card should be comparable to some of the Ghost Rares from Ghost from the Past 2. And to me, it just didn't make sense that this card would be worth, $800 or $700, wherever it was before. And then the Ghost from the Past 2 ones of sometimes just as iconic monsters would be $100. And I said that didn't make any sense. And people called me crazy for saying that I thought this would fall out, but you can see that it's come down quite a bit. I will say that there's one seller selling at $400, and then it quickly ends up much higher than that because most of these are not English. This is Japanese, don't buy that, that's way overpriced. This is French, Italian, French. This one is English, but from a seller who's not verified yet, and then it quickly goes up from there. So there really is only one on TCG Player that's at this lower price, but it doesn't mean that there aren't other sellers who would sell for this or close to it. And overall, I would just say that I think this card is still a little bit overvalued relative to the other stuff, but it's not as bad as it once was. It seems much more reasonable now. Here's a card that I said for years that I thought this thing was crazy, undervalued, and also there's this thing, I think there was a community group think, I don't know who started it, but this idea that the modern Ghost Rare, the print quality was so bad and the foiling was so bad that no one would ever want these things. And I said, yes. Is the foiling worse than it was, in 2013? Yes. Is the print quality worse than it was in 2008? Yes. These are just true things. However, that doesn't mean that it still doesn't look good, and it doesn't mean that people won't demand this stuff or have some interest in this stuff and create demand for the card. And I think people pointed to the price and say, well, it's not moving. If people actually wanted this stuff, it would have moved by now. My point was that there was so much supply of this stuff because they overprinted Ghost from the Past 2 that took years for people to really consume all the stuff that was on the market because there was just so much supply. However, the important part is that there is a constant demand. People want cool cards. People want cool cards or cool versions of cards that they remember from the show or they used in previous decks. And Blue Eyes is without a doubt the most iconic card from Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while, people were talking about Dark Magician Girl being on the same level as Blue Eyes. I always thought that was just insane. And this is an SDK art of a Ghost Rare rarity that even though people talked a lot about how bad the Ghost Rare was, I thought it wasn't that bad, and it seems like the market reflects that. The market price reflects that as well. Is that, there was a lot of talk, but in reality, people didn't mind it that much. And with the introduction of Quarter Century Secret Rare, despite the fact that that is a new high rarity modern printing, it has done nothing but go up basically. And I think that points to the fact that now people aren't afraid about a Starlight Rare coming out and then suddenly the Ghost Rare is something people don't want, because the Quarter Century Secret Rare completely gutted any interest in Starlight Rares as a high rarity, because the Starlight Rare looks so similar to the Quarter Century Secret Rare, but the Quarter Century Secret Rare is usually like 1/10 to 1/50th the price. And so I think people are happy to pick this card up and put it as sort of the front of their binder, an important card in their collection, and it's now $200. I mean, I remember when this thing was $120 for days, $140 for days. And check my past market watches where I talked about it. I mean, this card was not as expensive for a long time, and I kept saying that people were going to want this thing. I mean, we can look right here. It was $140, about half a year ago. And it has climbed significantly since then. Next up, we have another I Told You So with Dark Magician Girl. Oh, one other thing is just look at how few listings of this there are on the market. 190, 190, 280, 375. There's really not a whole lot of this stuff that hasn't been consumed and hasn't been put in the hands of people who are genuinely interested in it. I mean, people want these cards. And when there's something that's really interesting or a card that people really desire, and there's just this constant demand over time, people are still buying this thing, right? It doesn't look like there's any slowing down. There are days where people buy 30 of them and people try to buy it out. That didn't end up, mattering a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but you can see that people are buying this stuff over time. And so even if the supply is super high, it just gets eaten up at the end of the day. And that's what's happening with this Ghost Rare Dark Magician Girl, which, at these low points, it was $140 or so. Even, a couple months ago, it was $140, and you can see that now it's $190, and there's essentially two of them on the market before it jumps another $100 or so. So another Ghost Rare that's done well. Want to see another one? Here you go. 9 listings, lowest listing 72, and it quickly goes up from there. I mean, you can see this was a $34 card a year ago. The point is that people underestimate how much demand there is for these cards. It's just consistently selling over time. And I think that the tins are going to be somewhat similar. The difficulty is just how much more supply there is that I don't know. In the case of the Ghost Rares, they're still pretty hard to pull. With the Quarter Century Secret Rares, it's a Quarter Century Secret per tin, right? And so it's a lot easier to pull them. And so I don't know exactly how it will all end up, but I would personally say that I like them. I think they're pretty interesting, for sure. Next up, wow, this is going longer than I thought. I had a lot to say. We look at the Collector Rare, which has been completely gutted by the introduction of the Prismatic Collector Rare. A lot of the stuff like Blackluster Soldier Collector Rare has gone down significantly. I think people are afraid of a Quarter Century Secret Rare in Bonanza and maybe the additional premium rarities. I think that is very likely to happen. Not guaranteed, but very likely. And so I understand the concern there. Toon Blackluster Soldier, this is one where I don't think it's going to get a Quarter Century Secret, but if it does, it will just completely destroy the Collector Rare. And then there's a lot of playable stuff as well in the Collector Rare slot. Snake Rain is one that just looks very beautiful. We can move to the next page. When you look at what's still around, it's mainly playable stuff. The Hungry Burger Collector Rare. This is something I predicted would fall out. It held on, and it's still holding on a lot better than I thought it would, and a lot better than I said it would. So, I'll eat my words there that it's held on a lot better, but I said that this would never hold on to a $50 market price. It just didn't make sense to me. And you can see here that the number of sales, it's selling maybe one or two per month. And you can see how it went up to around $50 market price, and it's just teetering out, and there isn't the same demand that there was originally for it. $33 right now, and the market price is still it's still a bit higher than where it's at. So I think there's a significant amount of room for it to fall. And you see the supply here, at $33.50, you have 10 copies, right, just between two sellers. So memes sometimes don't last. Elemental Hero Stratos, this is one that has creeped up a little bit, but when you look at the actual copies, it's 130 lowest from a verified seller, so it's doing even better than its market price suggests. Ultimate Rares are something that I don't know what to think, really, because OTS packs have been, the collectible Ultimate Rares have really been flopping, to be honest, and I'll show some of them soon, but yeah, I don't know what happened to OTS. I felt like during the pandemic, it was one of the most desirable rarities. People were always talking about the Ultimate Rares, and then there were a couple of flops, and people just really aren't going after them as collectors anymore. I still think that they look quite nice and that there are a bunch of cool cards in the Ultimate Rare slot, but what can I say? And I think in OTS 26, I looked at it, there's no collector cards, so Konami has also changed up the recipe for the OTS pack, and maybe that's affecting things. Next up, we have Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. Not playable, not a whole lot of movement because it's a vintage card, but still a very beautiful one, and $60 for a near mint unlim, not too bad at all. 105, there are 15 copies here. I don't think there's going to be any movement on this unless there's downward movement, but if you're trying to pick up a really cool looking card for your collection, I think Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys is a cover card and awesome foiling. I just think that it looks really, really nice. One of those Ultimate Rares that was, I think, for collectors but flopped, even though I think this is one of the coolest modern cards, is Cyber Dragon Ultimate Rare, the alt art. Let's ignore these Korean copies, but it's $45. I mean, this was expensive for a while. And, if you look before this point, if we look more than a year ago, it was $100 for a while. Zoomed back up to 70 and has fallen out since then. I just think this is one of the most underrated cards. Super, super cool. I think it pays homage to the original Ultimate Rare printing, and it's an alt art. It's not just a rehash of something that came out and was iconic. Solemn Judgment, another Ultimate Rare from the OTS pack. This used to be well into the 100. It was a three-figure card for a while. Now it is, $42 lowest listing, or 42 market, and then about 44 lowest listing. I mean, it's a cool looking card. I have two of them. I really love them, but man, the Quarter Century Secret Rare took a lot of the steam out of this, as it was already, people were losing interest in OTS Ultimate Rares. And I'll finish off with the iconic Chaos Emperor Dragon, just because I always talk about this card. Even though there's all this, it seems like vintage is actually doing quite well. Chaos Emperor Dragon, it's available. Here's a random grading company, 8. I don't know how near mint that actually is at 200. And then there's, 240, 250. I think, it's pretty healthy to have it in the 200s. But there's so much cheap stuff out there that looks really nice. And so I think there's going to be a bit of a decline in a lot of the modern cards that aren't things like Ghost Rares or maybe OTS Ultimate Rares, because there's just really nice Quarter Century Secret Rares out there that are pretty cheap. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. It's been your boy Watomarmelon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.